Hi everyone, my name is Akshaj and this is a video where I'm explaining Python loops. First we'll start with the for loop. For loop iterates over any sequence like list, string, dictionary, sets, range, etc. What it does is, it takes a sequence and runs it per one item. You can think it of as a postman delivering letters. For example, a postman visits each house in a street one by one till the entire street is done. A for loop does the exact same thing. You can see an example here. For example, I will contact a list called contacts here. It has some names of people. What I want to do is that I want to print Happy New Year beside each and every name. So I can write a for loop where I tell Python for every name in contacts, you have to print a f string called Happy New Year with a name in it. So when I run it, it gives me a proper answer. I can also do it with a string. For example, I have a string called Python, and if I want to have a full stop after every character in a string, what Python will do, it will split the entire string in each character and then add a full stop in it by using the end argument, as you can see here. We can also do the same with the tuple and also same with the dictionary. In dictionary, you can find all the keys separately. You can list down all the values separately, and you can also list down all the key value pairs in a column, as you can see here. Next, we'll talk about the range function. Range function basically generates a sequence of numbers, which is a very common companion to the for loop. What you have to remember is the syntax. The range function has a start value, stop value, and a step value. Start value is the first number that you have to start with. It's default in Python to have a start value of 0, but you can have any number you want. Next, the stop value is basically up to which number Python has to count, but it's very important to remember that it does not count the number which I've mentioned. For example, if I put the stop value as 10, it will count only till 9, excluding 10. Next is the step value. Step value is basically the increment value. And the default value of the step is 1, but you can also change it to any number you want. We'll see a small example. For example, I write a code to list down the range of 5. So what we'll do, it will count numbers from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and make a list out of them, as you can see here. When I put a stop value and a start value, what we'll do is start with 1 and end until 5, as you can see here. The next, when I put a step value, what it will do, it will skip every second number and send down every even number, as you can see here. And when I put -1 as a step value, basically what it does is that it reverses. This is very helpful in the countdown problems, as you can see below. This is a small code for a countdown timer. What it does is, it counts from all the numbers from 5 to 0 in descending order because of the -1 step value, as you can see here. The next, we can also write a small multiplication table. For example, if I want to write a multiplication table of 7 from 1 to 10, what I'll do is I'll write a for loop where I'll take the range of 1 to 11. 11 because we'll exclude 11, so Python will only count 1 to 10. And as we have given n equals 7, it will give the 7th table, as you can see here. Next, we'll talk about some power up functions. For example, the first one is the enumerate function. What it does is that it loops with the automatic index counter. For example, I have a menu called with some items in it, and what I want to do is that I want to add a index counter beside every every item of the menu, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Python can do it using the enumerate function, as you show here. I also give the start as 1, so Python knows that I have to start with the number 1. For example, if I see here, but if I start with some other number, for example, I say 6, and I run it, it cancels that. So this is very helpful for the index if you want to have an index in your code. The next, we'll talk about zip. Zip is very interesting because what it does is that it loops over 2 or even more lists in parallel at the same time. For example, we have 2 lists, students and scores. What I want to do is I want to create a column, a table, where it lists on all the students, all the marks, and I also want to have a grade system beside them. For example, I've given a condition that if the score is greater than or equal to 90, I'll get a grade of A. If it's greater than or equal to 75, I'll get a score of B, grade of B, else I'll get a grade of C. So when I run it, Python properly gives me a good table of what I need, of the results. You can also have There's another function called the reverse function, and what it does is that it iterates in reverse without modifying the original. For example, I have a leaderboard called a list called a leaderboard, and it has the ranking of every player. What I want to do is that I want Python to list down all the players from last to first. For example, here Ria is first, is the last person in this list leaderboard, so she'll have the first number in the ranking I need. So when I run this, it gives me a proper leaderboard reveal that I needed. While we were talking about for loop and or multiple functions, now it's time for while loop. A while loop keeps on running as long as the condition is true. You can think it of as a vending machine that keeps on asking to insert a coin until we have inserted enough, and then it dispenses. So we know that for loop is when you know how many times to iterate, and while loop is that when you know that when you loop until something happens. We'll see, it'll be clear with the example here. For example, I have an ATM and I want it to keep withdrawing until the balance runs low. So I've set my balance as 10,000 and also given Python a condition that while the balance is greater than or equal to 2000, what it have to do is that it has to print me the balance minus the withdrawing, minus the text of minus withdrawing 2000. And what it has to do, it has to keep decrementing. The minus followed by equal to, basically what it does is it takes the original balance, minuses by 2000, and takes a new value and stores it in its memory, as you can see here. So when I run this, the first balance is 10,000 and it withdraws 2000. So 10,000 minus 2000 is 8,000. So we see here as a new balance. And when I do the same, it gives me 6,000. Again, 6,000 minus 2,000, I'll get 4,000. And similarly, it will go to 2,000. After 2,000, 2,000 minus 2,000 is 0. So the balance is, Python will give me a message that the balance is too low and it'll stop withdrawing, as you can see here. There's also something called infinite loop that always keeps on running if you don't put a proper condition. So for example, I have a count equals 0 and I give Python an text that while count is less than 5, it has to print the count, and count should always be incrementing, because if I don't put this, it will put an infinite loop and Python will never stop running the for while loop. So this is very important. Keep in mind that you be very specific with your loops, because you have to put a proper condition that Python knows when to break and when to stop. But if you want to break a loop early, you can use the break function. What does it immediately exits the loop and leaves no more iterations. So for example, I have a list called products here, and it has some 5 products, and I also have a variable called search for, which means I want to search for a particular product. So I say I want to search for tablets. So what I can do is I can write a for loop where I say for a product in products is the biggest list, we have to print write f string where it checks each product, and then what it has to do that if the product is double equal to search for, which means that if the product I'm finding for is same as the product that I've put in search for, then what it has to do, it has to give me a found message and also has to break the loop. So for example, it'll start with checking the laptop, as laptop is the first product in the list. Laptop is not as same as tablet, so it'll skip laptop and go to the next one. Next, go phone. Phone is not the same as tablet, so we'll go to next one. And tablet, next it's tablet, and tablet is the thing we are searching for. So Python gives us a found item message, and it breaks the loop without any problem. Next, we'll talk about the count function. Count basically does is that it skips an iteration. For example, we need to skip the current iteration or the current loop is going and jump to the next one. So we can use continue to do that. For example, I have a list of emails, and what I want to do is that it skips all the invalid emails in the mailing list. Invalid email is basically this one, as it does not have a @ symbol, a full stop, or a email account. So what it will do is that I'll start with I'll give sent equals 0 as a variable, and I'll add a for loop for that. For every email in the emails list, it has to check if @ is present in the email. If either it is not an email, it has to give me a message that it's keeping the invalid email and continue to the next one. So basically it checks this one, it checks if it's alright, if either is there. If it's not there, it'll give me a skipping invalid message. If it's, then it will go to the next one. It does not break instantly, it just skips to the next one, as you can see here. For example, we have an email called sending to Ria. Ria is a proper email, so it will give me this message, but then it'll skip and go to the next one. It will check if this not an email is a proper email. It is not a proper email, as either it is not present in it, so it will give me a skipping invalid message and continue. Continue does not the same as break, as if we put break here, it would stop right there. For example, I put break here. It starts with it checks Ria, then it checks not email, and it, as I put break here, it just stops the loop. So when I put continue, it keeps checking every element, every item in the list. So this is very important to know. Next we'll talk about the else on loops. Python loops have an option else that that runs only if the loop is completed without hitting a break. For example, I have two lists called users, and I have a list called users, and I have a variable name called search where it says Dave. So what it does, it search user in it search for an user in the users list, and if the user is same as the user in search, which I want in search, it will give me a found, but it will give me a found message and break the loop. Else it will runs only if the loop is finished without a break. For example, it will give me a not found in user list. For example, I have put the search name as Dave, and Dave is not found in the user list, so it will run this list this message. But if I want to change, for example, I want to change to Mira, and Mira is in the original list. So when I do this, it gives me a found message, as you can see here properly. The next we'll talk about is the pass statement. Pass is basically a placeholder that does nothing, but satisfies Python's indentation requirement, because Python has a specific indentation requirements that helps us to run codes and helps Python to properly see and run codes. So we can use it. It's useful when we have no code for the current time, but we can add it later. So we can put a pass, and Python just thinks of it as a placeholder, and it leaves it alone. As you can see here, I have a employees list, and what I want to do is that for every employee in the employees list, it has to check if Arjun is the same, if it is Arjun. But if it's Arjun, what I do is pass. I can put for example, I can put a print message, but I do not want to print message. If I want to put something else, I don't know what to do, I can put a pass message and just goes on. So when I run this, it will check with Ria. Ria is not the same as Arjun, so it will give processing Ria. Then go Arjun, and Arjun is same as what we want, but we do not give a condition or tell Python what to do, as we have put only a pass statement. So it just skips this one and goes to the next one, Mira. For example, if I write print hello world instead of the pass statement, so what it does, it checks Ria. Ria is not the same as Arjun, so it's writes a processing statement. Then it checks Arjun, because Arjun is the next one. Then, as I've told Python that if it's Arjun, it has to print hello world, it prints me hello world, and then it goes to the next one. And pass basically helps us put a placeholder for future use. It's here. So if you want to check when to use break, continue, or pass, break is used to exit the loop immediately. Continue helps us to skip the rest of the current iteration and go to the next one. And pass basically does nothing and used as a placeholder. Break does not help a loop to continue, while continue and pass helps a loop to go on. So next we'll talk about a full side-by-side comparison. As you can see here, we have a list called nums where it has some numbers, and what I want to do is that for every number in nums list, it has to check if n is same as 3. As you can see here, if it's same as 3, it'll break and print the numbers with a space in between. If we put continue, if we want to check about continue, what it does is that for every number in the nums list, it has to check if n is same as 3, and we write continue, and then it has to print this one, and we write the same for pass, and we'll check if what happens here. So for example, I wrote break in the first one, so what it does, it first checks at 1 is not as 3, so we'll write 1 and leave a white space, as you can see here. Then it checks 2 is not the same as 3, so it will print the number 2 and with a white space. But then it checks 3. If we told Python if it's 3, it has to break the loop. It's 3, it breaks the loop, so it stops at 3 only. Then we'll see about continue. Then first it checks the number 1 is not 3, so I'll continue the next one. 2 is not the same as 3, so it'll print write 2 and continue next one. 3 is same as 3. So what Python does is that it does not write 3 in it, and because we wrote the continue, and instead of stopping right here, it goes to the next one. So it goes 4. While break just stopped here, continue function goes to the fourth one, and fourth one does the similar as the previous two, and so does 5. Now if you want to check what pass does, is basically it takes every number and like before, but when it reaches 3, as you have done pass, and pass basically is a placeholder and it does not know what to do, so it like writes 3 in the same way we wrote 1 and 2 and goes on to the next one. So that was all for the video, guys. Thank you for watching.